Let's take a few moments to talk about the distinction between estimating vaccination coverage and classifying vaccination coverage. We won't dwell on it a great deal here, but it comes up in the sample size calculation, so we want to talk about it briefly. You can read more detail in Annex N. When we estimate coverage, we estimate the coverage and then we provide a two-sided confidence interval in the summary tables. When we classify coverage, we also estimate the coverage and we provide two one-sided confidence bounds in the tables or in the figures. And then we use those one-sided bounds to apply labels to the coverage. The labels might be something like pass or fail or intermediate, high enough or too low. When we're doing the sample size calculations, we need inputs from the steering committee, whether it's estimation or classification. We need inputs that involve precision and involve probabilities. Let me illustrate what I'm talking about with this figure from Annex N. This represents hypothetical results from a set of districts that comprise a province. These are data from a measles vaccination campaign, and you can see the red line here. The coverage goal was 95% coverage. 95% of the target population should be vaccinated. A survey was conducted in each district, and the results are shown in the figure. The colored shape shows us the extent of the 95% confidence interval. That's the two-sided interval. And then these gray tick marks show us the one-sided upper and lower confidence bounds for each district. The data for all the districts were rolled up and aggregated together and analyzed to calculate provincial coverage, which is shown here in the gray bar near the center. To classify the coverage, we use the one-sided bounds. If the lower one-sided bound was at 95% or higher, then we classify coverage as passing, and we show these districts in green. If the one-sided upper bound is below the target, then we classify those districts as failing, and we color them in red. And then all of the rest of the districts have one-sided bounds on either side of the target line. And so we classify those as intermediate, and we color them yellow. This is what we mean, and this is the strategy that we'll use for classifying coverage in this throughout this manual. I want you to notice that when we aggregate the data across all the districts, we get a much more precise estimate of coverage at the province level than we did in the districts. This is the power of the large sample size, 3,600 kids. When you aggregate all these 150 child samples, we get a precise estimate here. We can use this the figure to either describe the estimate, 91.6% of the kids in the province were vaccinated, and we can also classify coverage here. We can say that we are 95% certain that the coverage in the province did not reach the threshold. In some of the districts, yes. In some of the districts, maybe. In some of the districts, no. And in the province overall, the answer is no. That's what we mean by classifying. We always estimate in order to classify. And then we use sometimes an imprecise estimate. If it's far from the threshold, we can even use an imprecise confidence interval to make a confident classification of coverage. The price that you pay when you decide to classify and use a smaller sample size in each district is that you're going to have some districts with intermediate coverage, where you can neither call them a pass nor a fail. And the smaller the sample size that you use, perhaps the more districts that you classify in the intermediate category, which to policymakers is maybe, it's an unsatisfying category. They don't quite know what to do with it. But this is the price you pay for taking a smaller sample, is that you have some districts that you cannot classify confidently.